Welcome into the Giant Overreaction, the rawest, realest New York Giants content on the internets. Big shout out to the gang, man. We got a W in Seattle against those Seahawks, 29-20. To my surprise, I must admit, I thought this could be a close game for the New York Giants. Did not think that they were going to walk away with the victory in this one. And all three phases, man. All three phases showed up in this game. The offense showed up in a major way. My God, that defense was playing lights out, and I think it's kind of going under the radar how well that defense played simply because Daniel Jones put up a great game in this one. And, man, special teams, the last play of the game, the blocked field goal, Isaiah Simmons. The New York Giants now, after winning their second game on the season, improved to 2-3. And although there is a lot of discourse in the NFC East, the New York Giants are still at the bottom of the division right now with the Philadelphia Eagles, who are on a bye, sitting at 2-2. The Washington Commanders at the top of the division sitting at 3-1. And if you stayed up late enough last night to watch the Dallas Cowboys game, they won in an impressive fashion on that last drive against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Really good game, had a lightning delay. But nonetheless, the Giants are competing within the division right now. I won't say, against the divisional opponents quite yet because we are still 0-2 against our divisional opponents, but they're kind of staying in the mix right now. And I think that's all we can ask for from this regime and this unit of players right now, because a lot of people went into this year, including myself, thinking that this was going to be the year that was going to shock the New York Giants and put them into this rebuild, forcibly put them into this rebuild. But this was a really good game. I thought the team showed a lot of resilience again. It reminded me a good bit of the Cleveland Browns game. You start off with a play that seems detrimental and it's going to make the game go in the wrong direction. Just like the Eric Gray fumble that happened on the opening kickoff against the Cleveland Browns. And you get another one from Eric Gray on the goal line here where he's trying to reach the ball out over the goal line, trying to get it across the invisible plane, and ends up kind of losing the ball as he's reaching, ends up being a fumble. I know a lot of Giants fans thought the referees kind of did us in on that one. I thought it was the right call. I thought as soon as he pulled the ball out of his belly, he started to lose it just a little bit. But the Giants bounced back in a major way. This offense being efficient throughout the day. The defense was just absolutely amazing. Pressure on Geno Smith the entire game. The calculated blitzing that we saw from Shane Bowen on the perfect down and distance type of situations where when the Seattle Seahawks needed to climb out of a third down situation, Bowen would send a blitz. His defense was flying around, big hits, getting after the quarterback, stopping the run. Very unpredictable pre-snap alignment in this one as well. I thought that they weren't obvious with the way that they were showing the blitz. And I think, through 5 games now, Shane Bowen is showing that he's got a bit of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of vibes going on where he can call the conservative game plans, which interestingly enough, those are the games that we haven't won. And the games where we're a bit more aggressive are the games where the New York Giants come away with the W. And we expected this defense to be the front-running unit coming into this year, and I think they're doing a good job, though. It's not to say that the offense is not playing their part, especially in this one. The offense definitely showed up. Without Malik Neighbors in this one, without Devin Singletary in this one, they still found a way to get first downs in this game using Daniel Jones' legs. Daniel played extremely solid. I want to pull up his numbers right off the bat. Because passing the ball, he was just extremely efficient, connected on the deep ball in this one as well, which was a great sign for us moving forward. Although it wasn't to, some of the youthful speedster type of wide receivers that we have, being that Malik Neighbors was out of this game. Jalen Hyatt was out there for, I think it was just under 70% of the snaps for the New York Giants, and he did not see a target. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if that has something to do with the way that Brian Dable is scheming it up, or if it has something to do with, the guys that Daniel Jones might be comfortable with, or maybe a combination of both. But Jones was 23 of 34 for 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a passer rating of 109.6. This is a very efficient day. If you remove that Dallas Cowboys game out the mix, we're talking about 3 straight games where Daniel Jones has now had 2 passing touchdowns. And that's the kind of consistency that Giants fans want to see from him. I'm not going to talk too much on his game because I do want to save some of this for the Giant overreactions, where we do have some nuggets and a couple of, just statements that I think are going to possibly split the room. But I love the way that he used his legs. And for me, and I talked about this on the Bleacher Report stream right after the game, the number one characteristic that shined in this game from Daniel Jones is the word that I used to describe Jaden Daniels in last week's preview show, which was poise. This Seattle crowd came out extremely hype, extremely loud, right? And even when we were winning the game, the stadium was rocking the whole entire time. And you didn't see pre-snap penalties from the New York Giants. You actually saw pre-snap penalties from the Seattle Seahawks. And the Giants went out there and played diligent, resilient, and just the kind of football that you want to see from a well-coached team. And I think that speaks volumes to Brian Daboll. Funny moment after the game when Wan'Dale Robinson went live on his Instagram. And, they were playing that Take Over Your Trap record and whatnot. The whole team turned it up. And Brian Daboll pops out looking like dad just caught us drinking in the basement. And it's like, you better not be posting that on social media. Wan'Dale Robinson, just a panic in his face, immediately cuts off the Instagram. But I think that's kind of showing from top down that Brian Daboll is, the guy for this team. At least currently he is. And last week when we did the Giant Overreactions, I had a statement that was talking about Brian Daboll being fired. And I was like, I didn't show it because I felt like it was just a little bit too early to be talking about that. And y'all know that I hold Brian Daboll to a very high regard, and I don't think that a lot of the deficiencies that have been happening during his tenure here are mainly his fault. I think that Brian Daboll's doing a really good job with, I won't say poor personnel, but personnel that is not, one, matching the style of offense that he likes to call, and two, just, having some holes in certain pieces that are very necessary for a Brian Daboll type of offense. And yet and still, he was the coach of the year in 2022. Yet and still, when there were injuries up front and injuries to the quarterback position, he still found a way to win 6 games last year, to some of the fan base's demise, because a lot of the fan base wanted to get the higher draft pick to get the quarterback that we wanted. And we're seeing a lot of that trickling around on social media this Monday morning and afternoon already. And there's been a bit of a war going on because obviously Daniel Jones had the game that he had here, which was a really good one. And I think that another thing kind of being thrown under the radar a little bit is the offensive line and how well they have played through 5 games and what that can do in return to Daniel Jones' game. And you're seeing it when Daniel Jones has time, he's a much different quarterback. Does he have that elite ceiling characteristic that we're looking for from a team that will be pushing for, or contending for a championship? I think that that verdict is still not out yet, possibly for a lot of the fans who are still very hopeful for Daniel Jones. For others that have seen, the past 5 going on 6 years that have a pretty good evaluation of Daniel Jones, I think the writing is on the wall in that case. In the first half, a couple of great drives from Daniel Jones, plays of 16, 12, and 8 in the first half, just lengthy, methodical type of drives. I think that Brian Daboll is doing a good job of fitting the game plan to what Daniel Jones does best. I do think he needs to slide a little bit more a couple of times there, a little bit in harm's way, a little bit too much. I saw 4 quarterback designs runs early on in this game. Daniel Jones taking some big hits, but getting up from him as well. He's showing you that he is a tough kid. So really good day from Daniel Jones. And connecting with old faithful Darius Slayton. I mean, Darius was coming off a game where a lot of people considered it to be 2 drops from him in the last game against the Dallas Cowboys. Came out here early on in this game before he had even had a reception, I believe. Had a low drop on a pass that was a little bit low but should have been caught by Darius Slayton, and then ends the day with 10 targets, 8 receptions, 122 yards, and the touchdown. The 2 deep shots that we got in this game were both to Darius Slayton. And, I think that Daniel Jones did a good job of correcting some of the mistakes that he had made with the deep ball against, the Dallas Cowboys and in previous weeks as well. But I am pumping the brakes a little bit on, he's corrected the deep ball. It's nice to see him get a couple of shots. He only had the one to Malik Neighbors against the Dallas Cowboys that was a ball that kind of floated up and was a little bit short. In this game, pinpoint accurate throws to Darius Slayton. And, kudos to Darius Slayton for coming down with the catches as well. The one on the sideline was the more tougher, difficult one. Got the toes in. Great catch. No bobbling of the ball or any of that. Solid as he fell to the ground. And then just 2 plays later, you see him on the kind of like a scissors concept crossing route, wide open. And Daniel Jones hits him in stride. And I thought Daniel Jones did a really good job of hitting most of his wide receivers in stride on the day during this game. The Seattle Seahawks did come in a little bit banged up. No Boye Mafe. They dealt with some injuries throughout the game in their secondary with Reek and Devin Witherspoon as well. But I thought it was just a good day. You don't really pick the teams that you're going to play against. And I think it's important to just go out there and play your best ball. And the Giants did that. And Tyrone Tracy, I mean, that guy, my goodness, just came in a spot where I don't think anybody expected him to have this type of day, this type of game. And he goes out there and puts up 123 yards on the ground. That just makes things much easier for the quarterback position. When you have a running game And I always talk about that on this channel. There are two types of quarterbacks. Those elite guys don't necessarily need a running game. They benefit from it just like any other quarterback. And Daniel Jones, when you give him that wide receiver one, which you really didn't have in this game, but you give him that offensive line, you give him that running attack, he seems to be a much different quarterback. The Giants pretty much dominated in all statistical categories in this game, from total yards to passing yards, rushing yards. We had 175 rushing yards as a team in this one. Yards per play was just 0.2 more, but nonetheless, it was more. Our third down percentage was much better. We were 7 of 16 in this game. The Seattle Seahawks were held to 3 of 11. We had more first downs, just 2 penalties in the entire game, and time of possession. Dominated time of possession in the first half by double almost, and end up finishing the day 37 minutes, 22 seconds to 22 minutes and 38 seconds. Jones, only sacked 3 times in this game. The New York Giants got after Geno Smith in a major, major way. They got after him 7 times in this one. And before I get off into the chat, I just want to talk about something here where I think I possibly overvalued the team that the Seattle Seahawks are right now, okay? And we know that Bill Parcells, the famous New York Giants coach, said that you are what your record says you are. And the Seattle Seahawks came into this game with a 3-1 record. Seeing the way that their pass protection was in this game, it was absolutely terrible. They abandoned the run early on. I thought the game plan for them was not really that good either. The score was tied up 7-7, and they went 7 straight passes. And I don't understand that. 2 rushing attempts in the first half, the inability to not only run the ball on their side of the offense, but to not stop the run, the way that Tyrone Tracy was able to just eat on the ground throughout this entire game. The turnovers, very unlike them as a team. DK Metcalf did have the fumble, and I think that's his 8th career fumble, which is the most by any wide receiver since he has came into the league. Some of the coaching decisions by Mike Macdonald in this one, going for it on 4th down in your own territory, down by 7 points, and it's 4th and inches, and you pass the ball. I thought that was an interesting, egregious call by Mike Macdonald. And when you look at the Seattle Seahawks coming into this game, this is the part that I extremely overlooked. And I'm not trying to take away anything from the New York Giants here in their victory. Y'all know that I like to be very objective on this channel and at the same time be critical. They beat Bo Nix and the Broncos in week 1 by 6 points. They beat them 26-20. And then they beat the Patriots, who are arguably the worst offense, maybe the worst team in the NFL right now. They beat them by just 3 points in overtime. And then they beat the Dolphins 24-3 with Skylar Thompson playing quarterback. You got a new head coach over there, riddled with injuries. Geno Smith's numbers were a little bit puzzling to me, that they were a 3-1 team, but coming into this game, Geno Smith had 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And I felt that as a 3-1 team, those numbers should have been better. And when I looked at his box scores coming into this show today, Geno Smith has had just 1 singular touchdown in every one of his games this year, and he has an interception in 3 out of 5 games. The Giants' offense in this one scored 23 points, punted the ball 4 times, had 2 touchdowns, both through the air, 3 field goals on the day. And when we look back at what happened against the Dallas Cowboys, the tail of the tape was the Dallas Cowboys were scoring touchdowns and the New York Giants were scoring field goals. No touchdowns in that game for the Giants. Good to see them come out in this one and put the ball in the end zone at least twice. The Giants were 1 for 4 in the red zone in this game. So there is still a lot to be cleaned up. I think that the 3-0 start by the Seattle Seahawks was a bit of smoke and mirrors. And through a couple of more weeks of football, I think we'll get to see what type of team that they really are and if they can bounce back from this loss to the Giants. But nonetheless, fantastic game for the New York Giants. Let's tap in with the chat. I see Gang is in the building bright and early. And I don't know if we'll be able to scroll all the way back. I already see a super chat came in too, so let's get right to that one right off the bat here. Get right or get left. Shout out to Get Right or Get Left with the $4.99 super chat. Digging that name, first off. That name is fire, and a lot of my homies on YouTube got some really good names. Let me just turn some up here on this side. Get Right or Get Left says, for the church's building fund, keep up the great work and keep pushing forward, brother. I feel like the NFC East is finally becoming competitive. Yeah, man, when we first started our podcast in 2019, we were thinking of names, and, we recognized that the NFC East had the most rings at that particular moment in time, so we decided let's go with the best division in football, and that's the name of our Tuesday and Thursday show, and it just seems that as soon as we started that podcast, the NFC East started to kind of take a little bit of a hit, and obviously the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants being at the bottom of that division for a very long time, and since we have started this podcast, the New York Giants have not won the division. So I'm waiting on that day, when things really start to change and we can change the narrative of how the New York Giants, their place and where they belong within this division. But shout out to Get Right or Get Left. First time seeing you, I feel like in the building. I feel like you might have been watching from a distance. Appreciate you supporting the channel, my brother. That goes a long way. And we got another one from Martin Talks Sports. Another new name I feel like in the building says, I still want to draft a quarterback regardless. And Martin, we definitely going to get to that. And I do think that the biggest overreaction of today's, the winning of the game yesterday and going into Victory Monday is that Daniel Jones now has fixed the problems after getting these 2 victories against the Cleveland Browns and against the Seattle Seahawks. That's 2 out of 3 games that he's got a victory. And I'm right there with you, Martin. I think it is absolutely necessary that the New York Giants, no matter what goes down in this season, I'm going to stick to this script throughout the year, you got to go out there and draft a quarterback, and preferably a first-round quarterback. But you just can't leave the draft without bringing in some competition, a guy that we feel can be, a guy who can take over the keys of this New York Giants offense. But shout out to Martin Talk Sports, man. Definitely means a lot supporting the channel, my dog. Let me see who else is in the building one time, man. I had to do a little opening there. We got a gang of y'all in the building. I'm going to try to just scroll. I won't highlight the comments just yet. So if you got to repeat your questions here in a second, we're going to jump off into these giant overreactions fairly quickly today. These shows tend to go by extremely fast. We're already almost a dub in already. But let's shout out to some of the folks here in the building, man. So I see Michael Knight is in the building one time. He says, great morning, Authentic in the Beard. That's Gregory actually that says that. Michael Knight says, bro, Jones is making it hard to move on from him. I disagree with that. I do think that he is playing some really good football. But when you look at it, in its total, a guy who's been in the league for 6 years already, I think the verdict for me, at least, is already out, but I understand the sentiment of feeling that way after a great performance by Daniel Jones. Can't take that away from him. Shout out to John one time in the building. I see you, fam. Waterfly says, use that thumbs up one time. Primetime 816 is in the building. Lou Mateo is in the building. What's going on, my G? JW is in the building, says this 2024 draft class and 2024 free agent class that Joe Schoen put together has been game-changing for the team. I do think it has been, you're seeing the improvements of the draft class and especially the free agency, the moves that we made on the offensive line. Absolutely. Big shout out to JW. Elias is in the building, says Victory Monday, 5 games in, and one of my biggest takeaways is that this is Shane's best draft class. A lot of people, Tyrone Tracy has boosted up y'all vibes on this draft class. I feel y'all. I definitely feel y'all. Also says, and I'm not going to overreact, but DJ's playing good ball. Benching him is off the table. I agree with that. He's played 3-4 good games now. I don't think you can consider benching him, but you do want to see how these next couple of games go. I still feel like the offense is a little bit restricted. I'll use that as a word. I feel like it's a little bit restricted, and not many. We went the whole first half without throwing the ball over 15 yards, so y'all know what it is. Deaton Shelton is in the building one time. I see Valentino. Brian Porras is in the building. He says, look into the eyes, Chico. Yeah, that thing has been in the garage since I moved, bro. It's you can have it. It was given to me, and, I will give it to somebody who will appreciate it, too. Shout out to NYG Crush for blessing me with that fat head one time. DKB01 is in the building. Problem is in the building. He is not the franchise quarterback. We gonna get to that. I see y'all. Y'all jumped into the comment section with the giant overreactions extremely early. Y'all ain't even let me set up the rules for the new folks in the building. I'm trying to show a little bit of hospitality out here, and y'all just jumping the gun. I see y'all, though. Shout out to Problem one time. I see Gregory is in the building. My dog, Ben Ballew, is in the building. What's going on, fam? He says, what are the Giants doing beating the Seahawks? It's pretty interesting, but I think, I answered the question kind of in that opening there. The Seahawks might be a little bit fugazi going into the middle portion of the season here. We're going to see how that goes, though. Got to keep our eyes on them. Shout out to Jeffrey. Shout out to Nova. Shout out to Eastwick Bando one time. Sigma Surge is in the building. Jetpack Jeff is in the building. Oscar Unrated. We got gang in the building. I see Kareem Yee. David is in the building. Jordan Genty Studios is in the building. Unofficially Retired Podcast is in the building. Matthew Fernandez, Val B. Shore, Alvaro Orion. I see y'all, man. Gang is in the building, man. LaJeezy or LGZ is in the building. Chris Peace, man, ain't you supposed to be working? I thought you was going to be working during this show, man. Big shout out my dog, Chris Peace, one time in the building. Prince Castro is in the building, says, hey, bro, should I say anything? Sounds like you put in respect on DJ's name. Look, man, like, one game for me is not going to change my overall perspective on Daniel Jones. Like, I'll just keep it straight funky with you. Look, the Giants got to move on. That's the only way I see it. And even if Daniel Jones goes out here and puts up a Pro Bowl-like season, I still think you got to consider moving on. And in that case, at least draft the other quarterback. But, like, I think we got to pump the brakes on the Giant overreactions. At least me. I posted a picture of Daniel Jones looking kind of goofy on my Twitter, and people are like, oh, now you're posting pictures of him? I'm like, bro, like, he's the quarterback of my football team. So, like, if he goes out there and wins games, it's a win for me. But I'm not one of these fans that look at it like Daniel Jones won a game. Like, I honestly feel like the people that are more pro Daniel Jones supporters are the people that want to be right more than the people that are like, damn, it's just time to move on. But shout out to Prince Castro, man. Appreciate you pulling up, my dog. The Bald Walker is in the building, says a great coach, in my opinion. You saw me talking about that on Twitter, Bald Walker. We're going to get the statement that you said on Twitter as well, too. I'm going to definitely bring up some of those points you brought up. Let me see. Prince Castro kind of followed up and said, best case scenario is that DJ keeps getting better so we can use this draft to keep building the team and filling the other holes. Listen, man, when you try to, like, build every other position around the team and then wait to draft on the quarterback, just tell me who that has worked for. It's not working for the San Francisco 49ers. Their alignment looks a little shaky right now as well, too. Sitting at 2-3, I believe it is. Got to think about that. For me, go get the franchise quarterback. Look at how the Washington Commanders, and maybe it's a little early, but look at how they're sitting at the top of the division. Look at what C.J. Stroud just did yesterday, right, against the Buffalo Bills. And look at where his team is sitting at. Both of those teams at the top of their divisions. And a lot of that has to do with filling the void at the most important position on the field. Let me see. NYBSMM5 is in the building, says, what if we were 4-1? That would be amazing. And we did have a chance to do that against the Washington Commanders, kind of let one go there, especially while they were kind of trying to, get their feet wet within the season. And I feel like the Commanders weren't the team that they are today when we saw them in week 2. But, 4-1 would be amazing, but we're 2-3. And I know I brought up the Bill Parcells quote, about the record and, describing who you really are. I think the Giants are somewhere in between that. I think the 2-3 representation is actually pretty good of what kind of team they are. Pretty decent team, but not pushing, towards being elite or making a real run quite yet. We got to see some more football. You got to win some division games. Diet Ghost 2107 says Giants have to stop looking sus in the second half. That's a good point. I think that the reason why that has been happening is because they don't know how to win. And once they get into those situations more where the games are close and they figure out ways to win games and Brian Dable feels a little bit more comfortable, you'll start to see them put the foot on the gas a little bit more. That's a good point, though. Jaden714 says, Tracy, we're going to get right to that. You know what? Let's just do that right now. Jaden714 says, Tracy, running back 1. So let's do it like this, y'all. For those y'all that are new here at the Giant Overreaction, we put statements on the screen that come from social media. If you think that the statement on the screen is an overreaction and you disagree with it, I want you to put a O in the chat to represent that you think that this person is overreacting. If you agree with the statement on the screen, I want you to take the under and represent that by putting a U in the chat. And if you need some more time to think about where the statement on the screen might be going and the direction it is headed in, you can put a P in the chat to represent you are taking the push. So let's get right to it. Let's get into this first Giant overreaction. This one comes from your boy Authentic on social media, and I tweeted this one out right after the game. Tyrone Tracy is the Giants running back 1. Now, for me, I talked about this going into the week that Tyrone Tracy absolutely deserves to have a larger role on this team, that if we're going to get rid of the 3-down running back that we had in Saquon Barkley and bring in guys to be a running back by committee, well, let's do that. Let's have all these guys share some attempts. Doesn't mean that you can't have one of them being the leader of the running back room. But at the end of the day, seeing Eric Gray and seeing Tyrone Tracy not getting the volume that I think they deserve was a bit of a question mark here. Tyrone Tracy comes into this game with just 12 attempts for 29 yards coming into Seattle. He ended the day with 16 rushes for 123 yards. Now, Joe Schoen was the one that was on record that said 27-year-old running backs decline, and then he went out there and signed a 27-year-old running back that kind of looks like he might be declining. Tyrone Tracy looks like a really capable young running back with a lot of tread left on his tires. He runs tough. He finds the cutback lanes. He breaks tackles, doesn't fumble the ball, all while coming off an ankle injury in his rookie season. Listen, I might be overreacting a little bit here. I ain't going to lie. It's just one game. I got to think about that as well. It's just one game going up against the Seattle Seahawks, who absolutely had a bunch of injuries up front. I still think Tyrone Tracy deserves to be the running back one until further notice. Go into next week against the Cincinnati Bengals, who they are a team that is very susceptible to the run. We saw the Washington Commanders go out there and have a lot of success against them running the ball. I would have Tyrone Tracy be the lead back. Devin Singletary coming back off a groin injury, slowly but surely try to implement him back into the lineup. Who knows? At the end of the year, maybe we're looking at Tyrone Tracy as the running back one of the future for the New York Giants. I think Eric Gray is a capable running back. I loved what Eric Gray did in the screen game, against the Seattle Seahawks this past week. It was amazing by him. The fumble has definitely been a thing. The issues have been a thing even before this game. For me, obviously it's my statement. I'm going to agree with the statement on the screen. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to put the U in the chat to represent that I'm taking the under. And I definitely agree with this statement on the screen. Let me see what the chat is talking about here. Then we'll get into some of these super chats I see that just came in as well. Big shout out to all of y'all for supporting the channel and rocking out with us on this Victory Monday afternoon. All right. So let's see what we got here. We'll start right here with Josh, who's taking the under. He agrees with the statement. MYB agrees with the statement along with Mike Jones, Bells as well. Chaz G is in the building. Says Jones could make a good package deal for a trade in moving up to draft Shador. I wish you would have told me this before the stream. I love this statement right here. The Giants don't got the guts to do that, though. They don't got the guts to do that right now. Good point, though, Chaz. Tone Blue is taking the under. David is taking the push on this one. Wants to see a little bit more out of Tyrone Tracy. Kyle taking the under. Big Pat is taking the under. Royal Money Entertainment says it's an overreaction. I feel him. It's just one game. Makes sense. Kareem taking the under. Val B. Shore says, do you think Tyrone was on his way to running back one before getting injured? I don't think so because, Joe Schoen brought in Devin Singletary for for a good price, I'll say. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't cheap. He got him for the value that he was worth. $9 million guaranteed, $5.5 million a year. I don't think that you would just pay that and put that on the bench. So for me, I do think that Devin Singletary would have been the running back one, week one. And if Tyrone Tracy would have showed that he could maximize his capabilities when he got his touches, then maybe he could have took that running back one job. Let me see. Jetpack Jeff is taking the under. Keep it a two-headed monster. I like that. You definitely want to give Devin Singletary his fair share of carries. Kareem Yee taking the under. Shout out to Kalen Dragon, 56 in the building, taking the under one time. Kyle taking the under. A lot of unders on this one. I knew this would be the easiest one. Mike Jones. Did y'all see the clip of Lamar Jackson at the press conference? This was last week, I believe. It might even have been an older clip. But they were like, you know how they say who's going to be from the press that says the question, and they're like, all right, we got a question here from Mike Jones. And like Lamar Jackson, he couldn't stop from like laughing. And then midway through it, he just goes, Mike Jones, bro, is like the funniest shit I saw all week, yo. I died laughing. But big shout out to Mike Jones, man. He's taking the under. Says bigger, stronger, faster. My only question is his pass blocking. Yeah. And they didn't implement him in the passing game as well. I thought that they could use him more as a pass catcher coming out the backfield, but that is a good point. Younger running backs tend to not have that type of experience and aren't as good of run blockers when it comes to pass pro, from the running back position. So I'm with you on that. Big Dog Status taking a big U here. James says he's taking a push. NYG Season 10 says it's an overreaction because it's a small sample size. Shout out to the beard one time. Lou Mateo says under. Running back ones don't fumble. I'm with you on that. Chaz G says he's still a rookie. He can grow into running back one by season's end. Welvin is taking the push. He says Singletary's fumbling is worrisome, but Tracy had one good game. Very true. Gregory taking the under. My dog Ben says it's an overreaction. Listen, man, I saw Devin Singletary go out there against the Dallas Cowboys, who were the worst rush defense in the entire NFL. And Devin Singletary was averaging about 1.4 yards per carry. Okay, the New York Giants as a team had 24 attempts for 26 rushing yards. And then I see Tyrone Tracy come out here against a better defense against the run and put up an outstanding day in the backfield. Listen, man, I can understand the push from my dog here, but I don't know about this overreaction vibe here. Hyphen Wade says he's taking a push, need another game or two, but this is promising indeed. Luke taking the under. Eli says it's an overreaction. Split carries, no gray. You could split carries, but just give my dog Tyrone Tracy a little bit more, right? If it's 21, give him 11. That's how I'm looking at it, right? Berg says he's taking a push, but almost under. Higher yards per carry behind the same line. Need to see it happen consistently. This is a good point, Bergs. A lot of people were saying that the New York Giants offensive line before this game had a problem in the run blocking department. And every time I would look up the PFF grades, the statistics did not match up with that commentary. And now you get another running back who clearly was finding different running lanes in the approach of his rushing attack. Just finding them, just running vertically while still finding lanes, breaking tackles. I just think that he's a better running back today. And we know, Joe Schoen even said that the running backs tend to fall off a cliff, right? Maybe his 27-year-old's kind of falling off that cliff himself, but I'm still invested in Devin Singletary, but just as a running back by committee type of guy. Talking Eco's taking the under, needs the bulk of the carries. I'm with you on that. Jay Jackson in the building taking the push. Kenny Catch, absolutely. He used to play wide receiver in college. He only played running back his last year as a super senior in his 6th season. He was at the University of Purdue. This dude has a lot of tread left on his tires as a running back, and he had one of the highest broken tackle rates in all of college football in his first year at running back. Entering his last year in college, he had 17 carries in total in his whole entire college career, so he can absolutely catch the ball. The only reason why he converted to running back was because his coach, the wide receiver coach, told him at the time, if you want to make it to the NFL, you should convert to a running back. And that's exactly what he did, and rest is history. Simeon says he's taking the under. Tracy must start. Muhammad Ali, the champ, is here in the building. Says he's taking the under, or at least have the same amount of snaps as Singletary. I'm with you on that. So most of the chat here is pretty much taking the under on this one. I see most of y'all taking the under. We don't got to go through everybody. Yeah, I mean, there's like 20 unders in a row here from Jaden, all y'all. I see y'all. Shaj Showcase says trading Jones would be a dream. What front office do we have to blackmail to make that happen? God damn, savage. That's savage mode right there. I feel you. On a Victory Monday, no holds bar. I feel you. My bad on that, y'all. Let me see what else we got, though, here. Yeah, mostly pushes, mostly unders is what I'm seeing. Okay, I got you. All right, let's tap in with these super chats one time real quick, get caught up, and then I'll take y'all into the next giant overreaction here real quick. All right, so we were at Martin Talk Sport. Now we got Hyphen Wade in the building, man. Big shout out to Hyphen Wade with the $4.99 super chat. Says NFC East went 3-0 this week. DJ played solid. Still doesn't sway me away from getting a quarterback. Tyrone Tracy, though, how we feel about that? That's good timing right there, because we all just kind of broke down how we're feeling about Tyrone Tracy. And, yeah, man, the vibes is up with Tyrone Tracy, a 5th-round draft pick from Joe Schoen. And Joe Schoen needs those type of, hits in the later rounds from his draft picks because, if not, it's going to be a continuation of what we've already seen in the past 2 years, which is really, below average drafting from Joe Schoen. So big shout out to Hyphen Wade, man. Appreciate you supporting the channel, my dog. Kyle Hyde is in the building one time with the $2 super chat. Says Eagles are the worst team in the NFC East. Saquon effect. I don't know. That might be an overreaction there. You can't forget that the Eagles are, dealing with both of their wide receiver 1A and 1B being injured. Didn't have Lane Johnson in this last game as well, and still tried to compete. I'll give them that. I'm not too sure who the worst team is in the NFC East right now. I think it could be any of the 4 teams, to be honest. The Washington Commanders are sitting at the top of the division. Hey, Ball, plug your ears for a second here. I know they're sitting at the top of the division and whatnot, but, look at the schedule that they have played. They have had the easiest schedule of anybody in the NFC East thus far. So I don't know if that's going to come back down to earth a little bit. I mean, nonetheless, they're sitting at 4-1 right now. The Dallas Cowboys are a pretty puzzling team. Their offense is not really clicking the way that, we are accustomed to seeing them. I want to say that they had the most yards of any offense last season. Dak Prescott, an MVP candidate during that time in 2023. And they've kind of fell back down to earth there. Brandon Cooks being injured. They can't find a way to run the ball. Everything is on the shoulders of Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. And that defense, obviously, who did get things back on track yesterday night. But it was against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are not one of the better offenses. The New York Giants, I mean, yeah, we just went out here and beat the Seattle Seahawks. Our most impressive win of the year. The Cleveland Browns are absolute dog shit. There's no other way around it. They're a bad football team. So winning that game doesn't really speak too much for me, but it is a win nonetheless. And then, with the Philadelphia Eagles sitting on their bye here, a much needed bye, I will add. I'm uncertain about them. They haven't been able to really run the ball from the quarterback position the way that they want, but Saquon Barkley has been holding it down in the backfield. So it's interesting. I think I need, me and the Beard were talking about this on our last show. Is 4 weeks enough to determine which teams are pretenders and contenders, not only in the division, but in the conference? And I kind of felt like I had a decent grip on it, but now after seeing week 5, it's all over the place. I think I need to get to at least week 8, week 9 before I can come to a real determination. So Kyle, I'm taking the push on this one. Big shout out to Kyle for supporting the channel though. Shout out to Crypto Moves one time in the building with the 420 super chat. Says one time in the building, opposing quarterbacks going to be yelling, yo, 5-0. Are we talking about the next 5 games here? Man, this was the toughest stretch of the schedule, I thought. And if the Giants can go out here and win a couple of games in a row here during this stretch, that will speak volumes. And going into what I consider the easiest stretch after week 7, anything is possible right now for the New York Giants. That's a fact. Shout out to Brett Carnahan one time in the building with the 199 super chat. Says, been a while. I hope all is well. Vice versa. Hope all is well with you and the fan, man. And, on a Victory Monday like today, can strut into the week, feeling the vibes very high, man. Very high. So Giants are definitely in the mix, and they have a winnable game here going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who are sitting at a surprising 1-4 right now. So, yeah, definitely all is well right now. Shout out to Brett one time in the building, rocking out with us today on this Monday afternoon. Big shout out to Jay one time with the $4.99 super chat. Says, I want wins. The way this draft is shaping up, we can legit make the playoffs and still get a quarterback in the first round. Really want Dable with a quarterback talent. I do too. I would love to see Dable get, a young quarterback he can develop that has that high-end skill set. You're seeing guys across the league with the dual threat type of capabilities, like the true dual threat capabilities. Like Lamar Jackson's game against the Bengals this past Sunday was just, extremely impressive. That's what a 2-time MVP looks like. And, other quarterbacks around the league are doing it. You're seeing it from Jaden Daniels. You're seeing it from C.J. Stroud. And then there are other guys where it's not working out as well. Veterans like Aaron Rodgers, young guys that had high hopes from their teams and their fan base, like Anthony Richardson, struggling, dealing with that injury, and just quarterbacks across the league. It is hit or miss. And I think the issue with what you're saying here, if the Giants make the playoffs, they're going to have pick 18 or higher. And how do you get a quarterback that high? It's probably going to be a guy that might not have that high-end skill set of a guy like a Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders even. It's going to be tough to get a quarterback there. And I think if the Giants make the playoffs, we'll worry about that when we get there. Getting to the playoffs will be amazing, and I'm right there with you, Jay. Like, I want wins. I'm with you on that. Shout out to Lou Mateo one time in the building, says, Tracy going to be what David Wilson was supposed to be. I like it. It's a different comp, I feel like, because David Wilson was just burner. David Wilson is more like Turbo Miller in my eyes, more dynamic. Tyrone Tracy's gritty. Tyrone Tracy is like an Amon Bradshaw type of vibe to me. He don't got all the speed in the world. He's not the biggest, fastest, strongest running back, but he fights for every yard. And, on Sunday, he was reminding me of like a Isaiah Pacheco type of vibe. Just tough yards, man. And he did have some good openings. But, yeah, David Wilson, man, it was a tough career for David Wilson. I remember his first, I think it was a kickoff or his first carry. When he first touched the ball, he fumbled it. And then he was doing backflips in the end zone and it ended up hurting his neck and had a career-ending injury. But shout out to Dave Wilson, man. Shout out to Dave Wilson. And shout out to Lou Mateo for supporting the channel. Definitely appreciate that, my dog. Shout out to all of y'all. Let me see. Red X3R0 says, really? I love y'all, man. Y'all keep it funky. He says, really? After 2 wins, we are now a playoff team? I feel you. I feel both sides of the coin because the Giants are back in the mix a little bit now with 2 wins, and nobody is really, front-running this division outside the Commanders, and I don't know. It's hard to believe with the Commanders that they're going to keep up this type of play, but, man, quarterback is doing his thing right now. And I think there's been pretty decent play at the quarterback position throughout the division, outside of maybe Jalen Hurts, who's been turning that ball over. All 3 quarterbacks have had some pretty good weeks the last couple of weeks. So may the best man win is, will end up happening here. Strider's in the building. Shout out Strider, says Tyrone Tracy sees a hole and just goes for it. Doesn't dance, just goes. Yeah, and he's like, even when he's kind of trying to find the hole, you see him just like veering into a new hole. Like, this guy's a really good runner. I would say it's like the opposite of what you saw from a Le'Veon Bell. I really can't compare him to many other running backs. I would have said maybe a Kenneth Walker, but not after this game. Kenneth Walker had a tough day. All right, so we're all caught up on the chat here. Let me just make sure we're caught up here. Yep. Let's get off into this next giant overreaction here. I think that this one might split the room a tad bit more because these last 3, I got 3 more for y'all. They're all pretty tough. Let's go ahead and get off into this next giant overreaction. All right, so this one comes from Twitter, from Rami Lavi. Says, if I were the Giants, I would extend Daniel Jones again. Dude keeps proving that he's the guy. I'm going to try to actively keep my eyes on the chat here on this one. And I'll come back to you, Talking Eco. I see you. We're going to come back to that. Let me know if y'all think this is an overreaction or if you agree with the statement on the screen and you're going to put a U in the chat to represent that you are taking the under. For me on this one, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a huge overreaction. And I see the O's are rolling in. Yo, y'all are, y'all crazy on a Victory Monday. Y'all are savages right now. Chaz G said, laughing my ass. Oh, with like 100 O's after it. Rozelle says it's an overreaction. We got all overreactions. Yo, Shah Showcase said, good Lord. Welvin said overreaction. El Scorcho, Erica, yo, I thought this would split the room a little bit after a victory, man. Y'all not feeling these vibes? Y'all not feeling these vibes? What's going on, yo? All overreactions. Okay, Formula Red coming in hot with the first one to agree with him. He says he's taking the under on this one. Y'all are crazy. This is a stream where I wish I was in the chat with y'all. Like, I wish I could, like, step out of body real quick and join y'all in the chat because this is wild, yo. Like, yo, damn. Y'all are savages, man. Y'all are savages. Y'all are savages. Okay, Prince Castro coming in with the under one time says he's proven that all he needed was a line. I ain't mad at that. I ain't mad at that. Crypto Moves taking the push says I need to see more consistency and health. 5-0 refers to Burns and Tibbs. 5-0. I'm still lost at that one. Real People says push. I need to see way more. Ben Ayers says it's an O. He's taking the overreaction on this one. Extend. He is in year 2 of 4, and DJ is not focused on that. He knows his job is on the line. I agree with that. Somebody, my boy 1T was telling me, though, that if Daniel Jones is going to be on the roster next year, they're going to have to find a way to extend him to restructure the contract. We'll see. We'll see. James says, oh, man, we got big O's. Big O's. Even if he continues to ball out, he can be the guy for the next 2 years without an extension. I'm not even for that. I ain't even going to lie. Talking Eco says it's an overreaction. Last time DJ got extended, he played horrible the next year. We have to see more consistency, especially with the quarterback classes with elite upside coming up. Hyphen Wade says, oh my God, such a big overreaction. He played great. Yes, he did. But this, again, has to come with more consistency and more on-the-field evidence. I need bro to pump the brakes. So this is what I'll ask y'all before I get off into, like, kind of giving you an answer on this one, right? Let's just say Daniel Jones gives you consistency through the rest of this season. Is that, in combination with what you saw in 2022, enough to say, yeah, I'm willing to now move on and give this guy an extension and give him the reins to being the franchise quarterback for the Giants? I wonder what y'all think about that. I'm going to just scroll all the way down to the bottom of the chat. Yo, Problem, I see you. Strider, I see you. Strider says Burns made a nice play on 4th down, didn't take the inside and over pursue, wasn't fooled on the play action, great angle in pursuit. Yeah, that's true. I don't even think his responsibility was to get fooled on the play action. If you look at it, the nickel corner, I believe it was, had the flat route coming from the running back, so his responsibility wasn't even the running back. So he went straight for the quarterback. Nonetheless, good play from Brian Burns. I want to see more out of him. $28 million a year, I'm still not seeing enough. Just running to the outside a little bit too much. There was another one that, the problem is just having a whole blast on this Victory Monday right now. I see y'all, man. I definitely see y'all. No extension unless we make a Super Bowl run. That I'm with you on that, because if you win the Super Bowl, you kind of have no choice but to bring him back. And if you win a Super Bowl, yeah, you proved everyone wrong that you can do it. You are the kind of quarterback that has an elite characteristic to win a big game. Go out there and give him the extension. I'm with you on that. Let me see what else we got here. Yeah, everyone is just, y'all are having a damn ball in the chat. Shout out to all of y'all, man. Y'all are just rocking out. Let me see. Strider says that it's an overreaction. I still think Daniel Jones needs to learn how to put teams away for good. We had 2 chances to take the life out of Seattle Seahawks and the fans, and we settled for 6 points. This is a good point. I don't know if you remember, Strider, like, in the previous years over here on Authentic and the Beard, when we would do the game recaps, I would always talk about the windows of opportunity to put the team away when you're up 7 or you're up 3 and trying to push it to a 2-score lead, that Daniel Jones tends to fall short in those big moments. And I agree with you on that. You get down to the red zone 4 times in this game and you come away with just 1 red zone touchdown. And that's just not enough. That's why I brought up the 4 punts, 3 field goals, 2 touchdowns. You want to see better. And this Seattle Seahawks defense was definitely wide open for the taking on this one. I thought the Giants moved the ball up and down in this game, very efficiently and just easy. Matter of fact, like, to me in the first half, the best unit on the field was the Giants defense, but the offense was just continuously sustaining drives and finding ways to get down there in the red zone. You just got to capitalize on it. So I'm right there with you on that. Chaz G says that he's the reason Dable takes his foot off the gas. He doesn't believe in Jones either. I agree with you on that. You get a lead in a game and you're like coaching for your life and you're coaching for your livelihood in the NFL. And you start to see Brian Dable get a little bit timid towards the end of these games and not wanting to ruin it. And we saw a lot of that with Joe Judge. I do think that Brian Dable is much better at it, but Joe Judge would get games close in the third and fourth quarter. And by result, we lost 7 one-score games that year. I think it was 2021 that was. Let me see. Elegante says, bro, we won the game on a blocked field goal. Nothing DJ and offense did to put this game away. I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. They started off well. I thought that, when I gave out game balls on Twitter for this game, I gave it to the defense and Tyrone Tracy. I think Daniel Jones had a really solid, good game, right? But the defense just balled out in this one. And we're going to talk about that on this next overreaction here. I think it's a really good one. And I think this one is probably not going to split the room. Let's catch up to some of these super chats real quick, and then we'll go off into the next one. Shout out to Talking Eco one time with the $4.99 super chat. Says, do you think Dable is embracing the run this year more than last year? I think he grew in that respect while also emphasizing the pass. That speaks volumes to the last comment as well, right? I think that Dable is understanding the personnel. And we've talked about this on these preview shows the last couple of weeks, that understanding what this team does well and putting them in position to do that. And this is the kind of offense that you can't just drop back and try to spread the field the way that we want to with guys like Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton, and Malik Neighbors. You have to implement the run. And when you look at the Dallas Cowboys' performance, even in a game where the rushing attack was only averaging 1.1 yards per carry, Brian Dable still ran the ball 24 times. It reminds me, this will always remind me of a game plan from Jason Garrett. And it was against the Las Vegas Raiders in 2021, where we went out there and we only threw the ball like 16 times. And I think that's when Daniel Jones is at his best. Get a good running game behind him, utilize the play action. Don't put him in situations where it's predictable that we're going to be throwing the ball, where defenses can pin their ears back, get pressure on them. It's a recipe for victories. It doesn't entail that we'll win games every time he does that. Obviously, it didn't work against the Dallas Cowboys, but I think that puts us in the position to win the best that we possibly can. And I think that's why, the way that Dable is coaching is going under the radar a little bit. It's a little bit underrated. A lot of people are calling for his job. And for me, I had to put out a post just yesterday saying, I never called for Brian Dable's job. When we were talking about all the, hot seat type of issues that were happening with the New York Giants, for me, I point them more at the general manager. I still haven't called for his job. I'm willing to wait until at least season's end, maybe into next year or whatever, and just see how these draft classes develop and whatnot. But I think that Brian Dable has been doing a much better job with the personnel that has restricted the way that he wants to call his offense than Joe Schoen has actually bringing in talent. I think Joe Schoen is a decent evaluator of talent when it comes to proven talent already in the NFL. Brought in some great veteran guys on the offensive line, and John Runyon, Jermaine Illuminor, and Aaron Stinney and Greg Van Roten as well. And now you have some depth there with Evan Neal on the bench. Great job by Joe Schoen there. But it's been the drafting that has been the biggest issue, and the contracts. Obviously, the contract with Daniel Jones that has, has not broken this team. I don't think that contract could have broke this team, but has definitely slowed down the rebuild just a little bit. Shout out to Wolves one time in the building with the $2.99 super chat. He says the Onder reaction and the Uber reaction. I can't even enunciate that, bro, but I feel you, man. Shout out to Wolves one time in the building, man. I appreciate you, my dog. And shout out to David one time with that $2 super chat. He says, overreaction, my guy. Extend DJ to a bag of chips. God, y'all are some savages, man. It's Victory Monday, y'all. It's Victory Monday. I'm trying to come up here and be Mr. Nice Guy, man. They say that, I'm the kind of guy who has, I'm screaming energy that says, I'm a hater of Daniel Jones, but I don't really like to call it like I see it. Look, man, if he has a good game, I'm going to say he had a good game. That's just what it is. But 1, 2, 4 good games is not going to have me pivot off my stance of him being a franchise quarterback or not. I mean, we've seen the skill set for 5 years going into 6 now. I think, most of us know what we got at the quarterback position, but doing a good job right now. Brian Dable putting him in a good position. I called him a game manager on Bleacher Report yesterday on the stream after the game, and a lot of people were giving me shit about that. Like, look at this guy, backhanded compliment, calling Daniel Jones a game manager. What the fuck you want me to call him? You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. He's a game manager, and there's nothing wrong with being a game manager. Like, some of the best quarterbacks to ever play this game were game managers. But, David, I'm with you on this. And shout out to Chris coming in with the $4.99 super chat one time. Says, hard for me to want to win games. I feel like going, let me see, this is a tough one to read here, bro. Hard for me to want to win games. I feel like we're going to win too many games. We're going to be stuck with Daniel Jones. That's what he's saying there. Listen, my homie texted me right after the game, was talking about this same thing. Like, man, these meaningless wins. And it's early on in the year. And, for me, I want to take these victories, and I like them. I enjoy them. Victory Monday is always better than a somber Monday when we lose, and we got to come up here with the giant overreactions and be all critical and talk about where we stunk. So I'll take these victories now. And even if you get a surprise season, Chris, like let's say, Daniel Jones goes out there and he can lead us to the playoffs this year and you get a surprise season, and I know you want to move on from the quarterback position, enjoy it still. You never know what could happen once you get in and possibly make a little bit of a run, and who knows, maybe get to a Super Bowl. Who knows? You never know. Nothing is impossible in the NFL. We've seen crazier stories develop. But shout out to Chris, and we got another Chris in the building. Big shout out to Chris Peace, who's supposed to be at work right now for the $1.99 super chat. Says, hating on Daniel Jones. Hating on what? And this is one of my sayings. I wish I had the clip ready to go right here, right now. But it's Floyd Mayweather Jr. He's always like, hating on what? Like, tell me what we're hating on, because hating should be reserved for people that do things that are above and beyond. And when people still don't try to acknowledge those people, we're going to call it like we see it over here, man. Y'all know what it is, man. Daniel Jones had a great game. Ain't no doubt about it. Shout out to Chris Peace one time. Gito Segura says, let's be honest, though. Simmons probably saved the game. Yeah, I think so, man. And Seattle got a little bit timid as well at the end of this game. Geno Smith gets the big 32-yard run. Look at the play calling after that. Just conservative as hell, right? And then set themselves up for a longer field goal, which Jason Myers probably would have made that if Simmons doesn't jump across the line to make the block, and then you're probably headed to overtime. But nonetheless, a good team victory. I never say that a game gets lost by one play or a game gets won by one play, and that play did close out the game. But I thought the Giants did some things early on in this game, throughout this game, to be the team that should have won this game. If Seattle went into overtime and won that game, I would have felt like some shit. Because the Giants were the better team on Sunday. That's just what it was, But you got a point. You definitely got a point here. Let me see. I saw something about some college quarterbacks here. Ben Harris says, Shadur, Beck, Ewers. I'm not confident any will be for sure better than Daniel Jones. Ward is really the only one I'm confident is definitely better. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Because with Shadur Sanders, my questions are the pocket. I don't even want to say pocket manipulation, because I think he does a pretty good job of that. It's moving laterally and escaping the pocket for me. He don't got the speed. Like Daniel Jones is faster than Shadur Sanders and can get out of dodge a little bit better, I feel like, right now. And the arm talent. Shadur Sanders does not have a big arm. Whatever quarterback we draft, I want a guy with a big arm. This team offensively has been built around speed. And having guys like Malik Neighbors and Jalen Hyatt not being able to run 50, 40, 50 yards down the field and get that bomb thrown at 60 is what's bothering me. Even the deep shot to Darius Slayton in this game, it's just one of those ones where Daniel Jones did what I thought he had to do to correct his deep ball issues, which was beat it with anticipation. Like, get the ball out earlier so they can run underneath it. But I also want to be able to have that ability to stretch the field like the new way, the modern way. What we're seeing from guys like C.J. Stroud. Look, Lamar Jackson, to me, is turning into one of the better pocket passers in the league. When he can play that kind of ball like he played on Sunday, he looks like one of those guys. And I just want a guy that has all three skill sets: deep ball, accuracy, and be able to run the ball and create plays with their legs. I think Daniel Jones did a good job of that in this game. Is that sustainable the way he's doing it? I don't know. I don't think it is, because he's taking some big shots. But Ewers, I'm not even high on Ewers, to be honest. Carson Beck, I got to do a little bit more evaluation of the arm talent. I like him on the intermediate stuff, but he looks a bit like a Daniel Jones. Joseph Santiago bringing a good one to our attention here. Daniel Jones, 100 plus QB. He means quarterback rating, not QBR, in his last 3 starts, which is solid. Yep, that's solid work from Daniel Jones. Let me check this real quick. And let's see. Yep, Mike Jones talking about timing. Shout out to Sarah in the building, says, LOL, no team is wishing they had Daniel Jones. Stop it. Yeah, I saw some people talking about top 10 as well. I can't go there just yet. Justin says, how do you feel about Cam Ward? Cam Ward's my top quarterback in this draft right now. I don't think nothing can change that right now. If you follow this channel and you watch what I do over here, Justin, I've been talking about Cam Ward for 3 seasons now. Shout out to my homie Stan, who put me on to Cam Ward when he first got to Washington State. And I'm a guy that, like, I get infatuated with the skill set of the quarterback. Like, numbers is one thing, and it's cool to see a guy go out there and put up 4 and 5 touchdowns in a game. It validates your opinion on a quarterback. But I look at the traits and the characteristics. It's why I liked Malik Willis coming out of college, too. Maybe not as a first-round draft pick, but he had the skill set that I felt like you could build around and you could develop a quarterback like that. Huge arm, velocity, can run with the best of them. I still think Malik Willis deserves a shot in this league. You saw it with the Green Bay Packers, and now they moved to Jordan Love, and the game plan is completely different. But I like quarterbacks for their skill set, and Cam Ward has it all. I mean, he can throw off platform. He can throw when he's running in the opposite direction across body, which they tell you not to do. He's got a big enough arm, although I do feel like his velocity has taken I don't know if it's taken a little bit of a step back, but I just don't see him throwing the ball way down the field like we saw when he was at Washington State. But he's at the top of my list, bro. Cam Ward's one of them ones. Elegante says, how do you feel about going after Darnold, Malik Willis, or I'm sorry, he says, how do you feel about going after Darnold, Malik Willis, as Shane picks are suspect? Just saying. We talked about Malik Willis on the Monday on the Giant Overreaction. He was traded on a Monday for a 7th-round draft pick. And I was literally saying, like, at the time, I thought he was going to get cut by the Tennessee Titans. And I was like, if that guy is out there, go get him. He'd be an easy upgrade at the 3rd quarterback position. You could move on from Tommy DeVito. I don't know what they see in Tommy DeVito. I'm going to keep it real. Like, to me, he has no high elite characteristics that say this guy's going to be a franchise quarterback one day. Malik Willis has those things. So I would have done it then. But now they traded him for a 7th-round pick. I think he's got a solid backup job in Green Bay. They saw they can win 2 games with him already. I think he's going to be a Green Bay Packer next year, and it might be one of those situations where Malik Willis has to wait. Sam Darnold, I don't know, man. Like, what is the deal with Sam Darnold? Is he on a 2-year or a 1-year deal with the Vikings? I can't remember. But the way that he's playing right now, would you move on and just bring in J.J. McCarthy next year? The Minnesota Vikings look like one of the best teams in football right now. So there's a good chance that he might be, a Minnesota Viking come the beginning of 2025. I like this capitalized hot take from Red X3R0 right there. Those get my attention. He says, I believe Arch wants to create his own legacy. He didn't go to Ole Miss or Tennessee, and I don't think he would want to be a Giant or a Colt. That's a good point. And to be a Giant, if we want Archie Manning, we're going to have to wait till 2028, and that's a long time. Mike Jones says, I love Cam's mentality, straight dog and true leader. Just got to take the layups more consistently, but please, God, let us draft him. You're right about that. He doesn't sit in the pocket and just take what's there at times. And I don't know if that's similar to what we saw at USC with Caleb Williams, like always trying to extend the play, and it seemed like they were kind of coaching that into him. But Cam does need to develop the basics, which a guy like Jaden Daniels had and has coming into the league. Whereas Caleb Williams, you're kind of starting to see him kind of try to develop that on the fly because he didn't do that much in college. So that's the one thing I do worry about with Cam. It will take him a little bit of time. And Sarah says, Authentic Sam is on a 1-year deal with us. Basically said this is J.J. McCarthy's team. Yeah, and I think that's true, but how soon? How soon is that going to be the case? And that's the part that I'm puzzled about. Because when a quarterback is playing this good, it's tough to just move on from. You know how foolish you would look if you move on. Let's say Sam Darnold takes the Vikings to we'll say a divisional round game, wins about 11 games, 12 games or something like that, and you move on from them, and then you go right back to struggling. This is a Minnesota Vikings team that I think was not as highly thought about coming into the season, especially with this schedule y'all had. This was a tough schedule, and y'all have been showing up, winning big games consistently here. Let me get back to the super chats real quick here, and then we'll move into the next overreaction. We got one from Keith Wilson Jr. in the building. What's going on, fam? with the $4.99 super chat says, OG, I had like 3 heart attacks this weekend from Cam. I'm so glad we are on a bye week. Take the check down, dummy. Yeah, for Miami fans, it was tough. It was definitely tough. And I turned that game off after the first half, and I didn't think they were going to come back and win. But I think that he's showing that it factor of, that I don't want to lose. And you're comfortable throughout the first 2 quarters. But then, once your back is against the wall and it's time to show and prove. I mean, this 2 weeks in a row now. 2 weeks in a row. This guy had to come back like this. But very impressive nonetheless. Shout out to Keith Wilson for supporting the channel as well. All right, let's get off into this next one here. This was one that was kind of recommended by a homie on Twitter. I'm going to definitely shout him out when we get to it. Let's get off into this next Giant overreaction. All right, so I kind of fused 2 of these into one here. This one came from someone who kind of goes back and forth with me about Joe Schoen on Twitter. His name is Who Knows on Twitter. He says, is Schoen getting some grace with this latest draft class? And with an LOL there, because he knows I've been very critical of Joe Schoen's draft classes. And I think this is good timing to talk about this after a pretty good game from, a couple of members from the draft class here, Tyrone Tracy being the front runner. Obviously, Tyler Nubin has not hit the ground running the way that we wanted to just yet, but he's doing a decent job at safety, I'll say. He's not being a liability in the secondary right now. Andrew Phillips dealing with that injury. Theo Johnson looked good in this game, caught a couple of wide open passes, but I'm still not that high on Theo Johnson, but I think Brian Dable did scheme him open fairly well. And the homie, the Bald Walker, who is actually in the chat right now, was adding to this kind of sentiment here as well. Speaking on Joe Schoen showing glimpses, and he said that the fan base kind of needs a little bit of patience. I'm kind of paraphrasing because he was typing fast in 2 messages. He also said, remember how Dexter Lawrence was viewed as a solid but not great player until 2022, and that was when Wink Martindale got over here and they moved him back to his natural position of nose tackle, and Dexter Lawrence has been a guy, the guy since. He spoke on Deonte Banks looking like a good cornerback 2 to him right now. A lot of people already jumped the gun calling Deonte Banks cornerback 1, who he did have a really good game. He only allowed 15 yards and 2 receptions in this game. But I do think that you could address cornerback going into this draft. He also said that this is the Bald Walker still speaking on the situation. He said Schoen has had some misses as well, some missed opportunities and mistakes like letting Barkley go, Julian Love, Xavier McKinney, my God, 5 interceptions in 5 games, absolutely balling out. But Bald Walker says, but he's showing signs that he's putting things together. And I do kind of agree with that. The 2024 draft class, I have to reserve the whole entire season, at least, maybe even the next season, to really assess who they are. I think Malik Neighbors, we know what we got there. Tyrone Tracy is looking like a guy right now. The other guys, I think things are kind of up in the air. Andrew Phillips had a couple of great weeks there, some high PFF grades, making some plays, tackling well, which is something that he did not do in college that great. But I don't think we can ignore what we've seen in the past from Joe Schoen as well. So for me, the O-line repairs, obviously, probably Joe Schoen's best moves to date. The wide receiver 1 in this past draft and Malik Neighbors, awesome. But can't ignore the poor drafting. You can't ignore the inability to draft like true cornerstone pieces. The Brian Burns contract. Brian Burns, I want to say this past week, another week of an interesting pass rush win rate. It was 12%, I believe. I believe it was I know it wasn't over 20. I think it was 12%. He did get after the quarterback in this one, but just what I'm seeing from Brian Burns looks like, I don't like to have the hot takes over here on Giant Overreaction and whatnot, but it looks like they wasted a little bit of money. And I'd much rather have a guy like Xavier McKinney on this roster than a guy like Brian Burns at the current moment in time. And you can't forget about the 11 draft picks in 2022, and really all we got to show from that is what? Wan'Dale Robinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Micah McFadden. So, I'm still a little bit worried. As far as the statement on the screen, this will be one where I'm going to cop out a little bit. I'll take a push on this one. I will take a push. Let me see what the chat is talking about. I already see a push already. Let me see what else we got. I'll get to that super chat in a second here. Okay, so we got a couple of votes starting from about right here. Valentino is taking the push. Sarah says, we're not bringing Sam back. McCarthy is the first quarterback in history they've ever drafted top 10. They didn't draft him to sit on the bench. I just think that you can slow play it, Sarah. We'll come back to visit this. I'll take the push on that as well. But if Sam Darnold continues to play the way he does, it would make no sense to just allow him to walk in free agency after a great year like that. Maybe get rid of him before the deadline, but you don't got another quarterback on the roster that can really take the reins, and that would be foolish. So I think there's a good chance we see Darnold get re-signed. Let me see what else we got here. Chris Peace is taking the push. Let's see how the rest of the season goes. I'm with you on that. Jaden says it's an overreaction. Missing on a 5th and a 7th overall pick is still a bad look. Yup. Yeah, Big Pat talking about Drew Phillips being solid. So far, yup. Drew Phillips is a possible top 10. Top 10 what? Corner? I wouldn't go that far, but he's balling out when he's healthy. Red X says he's taking the push. I'm with you. Deedon taking the push. Not quite sure how it'll play out yet. Chris P said Drew Phillips looking decent. Mike Jones taking the under, agrees with the statement on the screen. And I like it because it says, is Schoen getting some grace with this latest draft class? And I think he is. I definitely think he is. Talking Eco taking the push one time. Let me see what else we got here. Strider taking the under. I still think it's early, but I have to give some props to Joe Schoen. It's decent for now. I'm with you on that. Kareem Yee taking the push. We have to wait to see how the rest of the season goes. Let me see. Ben Harris is taking the under. He has had a great 2024 after a terrible 2023. From O-line coach to free agency, O-line especially, to drafting good this year. Most general managers have bad first drafts. Very reasonable take right there. Love all the points you brought up. Berg says he's taking the push. Got to see more games from the rookies and see how they progress throughout the season. Hyphen Wade taking the push as well. A couple of players are serviceable, but Grace, we're still not giving him that because a lot of these guys haven't done enough or been given the chances to. Injury and scheme. That's another good point. Joseph Santiago says the Giants will never draft Sanders. It's not an organization that wants that kind of show. I wouldn't mind that kind of show. And Deion Sanders has always been a guy that supported Eli, believed in Eli. I'm a big Deion Sanders fan as well. Big Pat says it's an overreaction. The line looks very strong though. Demon Time says Arch belongs on the Giants. Tell me I'm wrong. I'll tell you you're wrong if you want to wait 3 seasons because that's when Arch is going to come out, and that's a long time from now. Elegante says he's taking the push. We'll need to stack all of these. Flott played his best game to date. Yeah, Cordell Flott is definitely getting better. That's for sure. He is definitely coming around that corner. Guido Segura says that Burns was good in Seattle. I don't think so. I thought he was just average, maybe below it. He did have the sack in the game and whatnot, but just winning your one-on-ones. I think Brian Burns for $28 million is Kayvon Thibodeau looks like the better player. I'll leave it there. Red X30 says, wasn't Kadarius Toney and Kayvon considered too much baggage and we still drafted them? That's true. Maybe they've learned from their past mistakes. You got to put, was his name Deontay Baker? That dude was one of the biggest draft busts in the past decade for the Giants, man. He was a first-round pick. Ben Harris says, key is some grace, not fully crowned. I like that, too. Good points. Good points by everybody here, man. I'm definitely digging it. Let me see. Maybe it's Ghetto. Is it Ghetto Segura or is it Guido? I'm going to say it's Guido. Says, yeah, DJ is always a bridge at this point. He's good to keep around to help a young quarterback. I ain't too mad at that take. I like that. I think that's not bad. Ben Harris says, why does Arch belong on the Colts? Or why does Arch belong on the Giants but not the Colts? Because the Colts already have a quarterback. That'd be my only guess at it. Shout out to Cutter Bang one time in the building. What's going on, dog? He says, also, we back in that cycle of DJ making some people believe he's barely the guy. Forever the 6-10 team just outside of getting the franchise quarterback. Yeah, it's a what have you done for me lately type of league. And Daniel Jones has had some good games as of late. So I think that's why you're getting the circle back type of vibes right now. Royal Money Entertainment says that's why we need to go get Jay Sehorn. That would be amazing. I would welcome that with open arms. And Strider says, I really like what I see from Cam Ward. I think he's a good quarterback. One thing that bugs me is when he's dropping back to pass, he keeps dropping back. Yeah, that dude can get 40 yards behind the line of scrimmage sometimes. He has this great knack of understanding his ability and awareness as well, that he'll drop back way back and then he'll throw the ball away, get it past the line of scrimmage as well. But those are things that you absolutely cannot do in the NFL. Jay says JMS development going under the radar, not the same with McKeithen and Bredesen, than two vets, one being a very good one in Runyon. Yeah, love what you said about Runyon there. JMS has been inconsistent. This was a good game for him, though. I do want to check the PFF grades when I get a chance, once I get off the stream, and see how those look, and then check the All-22 as well. I didn't get a chance to check the All-22 last week. I was just kind of down and out about that loss to the Dallas Cowboys, so I didn't get a chance to check out the All-22 that much. Looks like this one's a little bit split. I think that the 2024 draft class is looking pretty good so far, though, and that's kind of leaning people in the direction of showing some support for Joe Schoen thus far. The mistakes from the first two drafts are still apparent and still there, but we'll see how it goes. We'll definitely see how it goes. Let's get off into this. We got one more, right? Yeah, we got one more, and I've been looking forward to this one too. One more Giant overreaction before we get y'all up out of here, man, so y'all can celebrate y'all Victory Monday into this entire week. Shout out to everybody that's pulled up and rocking out with us since the beginning of this stream, man. Big salute to all of y'all. Let's do this. All right, this one comes from my homie BT Giants. One of the best in the Twitter community at coming up with tweets that just get the fan base riled up. And BT says that the real heroes of this game were the Giants defense. They only allowed 13 points. And I'm going to keep it funky. I do not think this is an overreaction. I'm agreeing with this one spot on. I'm going to take the under on this one, putting a U in the chat to represent that one time. Now, you might look at special teams as a separate entity, but Isaiah Simmons did block the field goal to pretty much win the game with the return from Bryce Ford-Wheaton. Deonte Banks, 2 receptions for just 17 yards. He had the forced fumble in this one, 3 PBUs as well. You had 7 sacks on Geno Smith, 9 quarterback hits on the day, 3 sacks from Dexter Lawrence. He's got now 6 sacks on the season, just 1.5 away from his 7.5 career high. 24 pressures in total, 14 quarterback hurries in this game. And you know what? I absolutely have to upload this picture. It's a picture of Geno Smith that it was just, yeah. When I saw this, I was like, this reminds me of what we're used to seeing from Daniel Jones in the past. Just look at this picture of Geno Smith running from the New York Giants pass rush. That's a beautiful thing. You see Big Dexter back there. He's looking a little tired, but that's a beautiful thing. You got 4 linemen in one frame chasing the hell out of this quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. The defense was amazing in this one. And the New York Giants defense leads the NFL in sacks right now with 22. With 2 big games. You know, the Browns game, 8 sacks on Deshaun Watson. And here against the Seattle Seahawks, you get 7. That's 15 sacks in 2 games. They did have just 1 against the Minnesota Vikings, 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. And we got to Jaden Daniels 5 times. 3 of those came from the secondary. So, yeah, I definitely think the defense was the real heroes in this one. And if the Giants are going to want to continue to win games, that's how they're going to have to do it. Get about a good 2 touchdowns from Daniel Jones, a clean game, no turnovers. Get the ball in your playmakers' hands, run the ball effective, and have your defense go out there and try to hold teams to under 17 points. That's really what it is. You can't forget that one of the touchdowns came on the behalf of the offense when they fumbled on the goal line and it was returned for a touchdown. So the Giants defense absolutely living up to it. And I think that when they're a little bit more aggressive with Shane Bowen, calling some blitzes here, they're a much better unit. We've seen it in 2 games now against the Seahawks, and we've seen it against the Cleveland Browns. So I'm definitely taking the under on this one. Let me see where the chat is at, and we'll round this one out and get y'all up out of here. So let's see here. Okay, so this one did split the room. That's good to see. We'll start from right here. Shout out to the Beard one time and his Commanders. Sitting at the top of the division at 4-1 says he's taking the under. Big Dog Status taking the under. Mike Jones taking the under one time. Strider says that what's crazy. We watched John Runyon Sr. get his butt whooped literally by Strahan. What's crazy is we have his son and is playing for us. John Runyon Jr. signing is nice. Yeah, that's a good one. 3 years, $30 million. That one's panning out pretty nice. I like that one so far. Let me see. Kareem Yee is taking the under. Big Pat is taking the under as well. Erica says she's taking the under one time. Shout out Erica in the building one time. Lou Mateo says, super under. 7 sacks. Red X 3R0 is taking the under. Simmons even won the game for us. Messiah Mills. Haven't seen Messiah Mills. Shout out to Messiah Mills in the building, taking the under. The real multi taking the under as well. Another new face in the building. Segura in the building taking the under. Berg's taking the under one time. This Seahawks offense looked great against Detroit, but looked lost against us. Now, they did put up 29 points against the Detroit Lions, and they looked pretty good, but Geno Smith just one passing touchdown on the day. They did run the ball pretty effective. And, going up against a team that, is going to be contending for a championship, obviously in the Detroit Lions, probably one of the better teams in that division. It was impressive, and I think that's what kind of scared me about the Seattle Seahawks offense. But coming into this one, our defense held it down. David Kotler says he's taking the under. They won that game without a doubt. Elias is saying this is an overreaction. Played great most of the game, but also Seahawks had no time of possession and almost gave up the game at the end. Hero is Isaiah Simmons. That's a good point that represents the offense playing a really good game and the game plan from Brian Dable and sustaining drives from Daniel Jones and the rest of this offense. That really is a good point because first half time of possession, I want to say it was like 20-something minutes to 8. It was something crazy like that. So, yeah, they did keep Geno Smith on the sidelines, and when the Seahawks offense did get on the field, they felt the pressure of having to try to score, which in return made them throw the ball a little bit too much. Just 2 rushing attempts in the first half. I love this with a great backing on your point here, Elias. Really good stuff. Bluegrass Picker says sexy Dexy. The real multi said facts Bergs. Let me see what else we got here. Nick says it's an overreaction. Nick Audetti, I'm going to say. I'll be trying to get these right, y'all. Says offense dominated time of possession, allowing defense to stay fresh and rested. Yeah, that was a one-hand wash the other type of vibe. Definitely agree with you on that. I think the offense could have done a better job of just, putting a nail in the coffin late in this game and capitalizing on some red zone issues. But you and both Elias make good points about time of possession. That's good stuff right there. Hyphen Wade is taking the under. I mean, my God, that interior O-line was on life support throughout. Dexter was feasting, and Geno looked concerned as hell. The interior pass rush for us this game was amazing. Just pushing these guys back into Geno Smith's lap, which is exactly what you want. And Geno didn't have the time necessary to make the throws down the field that he wanted to make. Let me see what else. Elias says I missed a super chat earlier. Let me go back and check on those real quick. Got you. Shout out to Elias one time in the building. Represent with some good points and the $4.99 super chat. Elias says that they're going to take the under on this one time. I think Schoen is a good general manager. Best offseason, in my opinion, means he's improving in his process. Fix the offensive line. Best draft class. Burns is showing up. I'm in. Love it. I don't know about that Burns is showing up thing quite yet. I'm going to take the push on that one, but I agree with everything else you're saying there in that statement. And I think when you said I missed the super chat, you were talking about yours, hopefully. But shout out to Elias for supporting the channel. That definitely goes a long way. Okay, so we got some more unders here from El Scorcho, Valentino. Big Pat says Runyon is balling. Lamar Go G-Men is in the building, says Dex is a game changer, though. That's a fact right there. And, yeah, a lot of unders here. Brent says that this defensive line can eat, got to have fresh legs. Big Pat talking about the drops. Our receivers can't catch 2 passes in a row. The drops are crazy in this game. Mike Jones says Seattle did get a defensive touchdown. Our defense only gave up 13 points in their house. Yeah, you can't beat that, man. You really cannot beat that. There's no way that you would have told me that the New York Giants defense was going to hold the Seattle Seahawks to 13 points on offense and we would lose this game. That is a winning recipe. I don't know if it's Guido or I'm going to say Guido. I'm going to say Guido. You correct me if I'm wrong. Guido is saying, yeah, I'm liking Bowens now. Yeah, Shane Bowen has been a half good, half bad. I think when he's reserved, he's got some issues he's got to clean up. Maybe when we get Andrew Phillips back healthy, that will help him out on the back end of this defense to be able to play that reserve style and still be effective. Cutter Bang says, to be honest, the fact Joe fixed the offensive line alone has me believing. No one fixed the O-line while they were here since Eli's last Super Bowl. That's true. That's very true. I still think that a lot of the issues with the offensive line have to do with the quarterback, who is getting better, but not the most decisive guy. Still got sacked 3 times in this game. And the offensive line is doing a fantastic job, though. It makes Daniel Jones a better quarterback, and he's capitalizing on that opportunity. Yeah, we gave Slayton big love earlier. You might have missed it earlier on in the stream. The numbers were crazy: 122 yards, 8 receptions, 10 targets. Look, the last stream when we were in the preview section of the stream, we talked about Darius Slayton, right? And we broke down every wide receiver on this team that has been getting reasonable targets, from Wan'Dale Robinson to Malik Neighbors to Darius Slayton to all the tight ends and Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger. And all these guys, their yards per reception was under 11 yards. You look at Malik Neighbors against the Dallas Cowboys and you take away the big 39-yarder that he had, his numbers were around like 8.9 yards per reception, which goes to show you that these guys are catching the ball short. The one outlier was Darius Slayton last week, who was averaging 18 yards per reception. So we talked about if anybody needs to get the ball more on this offense, it needed to be Darius Slayton. Brian Daboll did a really great job of scheming him open, and Darius Slayton took care of the rest. And Daniel Jones was accurate on the day, and in return, this guy goes over 100 yards. You know, I always thought Darius Slayton was going to be the odd man out after this year. But it's starting to look like the Giants are going to be forced to keep him on the roster because he's productive. He's consistently showing that. And Pat Barrios says that unsung hero is the Darius Slayton. Yeah, man, good old reliable. Yeah, listen, when it comes to Darius Slayton, you don't ever got to worry about me putting any type of disrespect on his name. I always hold him to a high regard. To me, he is the perfect player as a New York Giant. He embodies what it is to be a Giant. He supports his quarterback. He supports his team. You don't got to worry about this guy on or off the field, and he goes out there head down and produces even when they're not paying him the contract that he truly wants. They put in a bunch of bogus incentives in his contract that they know he won't reach, and he still was like, you know what, I'll show up to camp, and I'm going to go out here and I'm going to show up on the football field. Darius Slayton is one of those guys, you don't got to worry about that with me, 100%. Let me see what else we got here on this particular topic as well. Yeah. Pat Barrios talking about Dexter Lawrence being gassed. He definitely was looking gassed on that play there. You know, he's putting in work, man, taking on double teams and doing all that stuff. Let me see what else. Red X says, I don't even think it's Shane who fixed the offensive line. I truly believe it's the new O-line coach. I mean, you got to give him credit, though, on the players that he brought in because, you know, Evan Neal at the right tackle position in particular, he was a poor player. And bringing in Jermaine Illuminor, you know, that has paid dividends for this offensive line. I think more than John Runyon. John Runyon last week against the Dallas Cowboys gave up the most pressures, you know, of anybody of the starting offensive line. But he's still holding it down. And I think that, you know, you got to give credit to the signings and give credit to bringing in the coach. You know, that's a Joe Schoen and a Brian Daboll move. And, you know, kudos to them for fixing that offensive line. They've done a really good job. Yeah, this is a good point that I always bring up on the show here, Mace Winter. Tyrone Tracy is 25 years old in November. Does that mean Joe will only give him 2 years? It's no telling. The one thing is that it's a bit of a misleading 25 years old because Tyrone Tracy didn't play running back in college much. He only played running back in his 6th year. So a lot of tread left. I think Tyrone Tracy can be an effective running back at this pace, maybe until he's 28, 29 years old. We'll see how things go. You know, it's his first 100-yard game, so we'll see how that goes. Guido says Slayton needed oxygen on the bench. He wasn't used to being so targeted. Yeah, he's going these games. He only had like 15 targets coming into this week. And to go out there and get, you know, more than half of that in one game, you know, definitely, you know, testing the endurance for Darius Slayton. He did a great job in this game. Yep, good point. Just reiterated that a little bit there. Okay, so some news on the NFC East here that I just want to bring y'all attention. The Cowboys edge rusher Marshawn Nealand was feared that he had suffered an ACL injury, and they're saying that it's likely not an ACL injury. So good for him, man. Hate to see players get hurt. Let me see what else we got here. Pressure leaders against Geno Smith, Brian Burns 6, Dexter Lawrence 5, Kayvon Thibodeau 5. Not too bad. It's a good day for the Giants defensive line. I feel like when I looked at the PFF numbers, they were a little bit different, but let me know if that's from PFF, Elias. Yeah, and Guido doubles down and says that's good. I still just want to see more out of Brian Burns. I watch him on every snap. I'm charting all the offense and defensive snaps for the Giants during the game live and recording them, and it's just, as an impact player, when you see a guy like TJ Watt out there, you know, you see the tenacity in getting after the quarterback. When you see Aiden Hutchinson out there, you see it. And I'm just not quite seeing it with Brian Burns. I'm seeing a guy that is trying to lean and gain leverage to the outside until the quarterback steps up and then trying to use his speed to get back to the inside. And it's just not working as much. Let me see what else we got. Cutter Banks says, I want to see Simmons on the field more. Yeah, I'm with you. He said he's a dog. It's just hard to find a spot for him on this defense. Big Pat says, Rose Tap. Oh, no. Big Pat says to me, I guess, oh, damn, he just jumped on me. Give credit to the kicker. We don't win without him. Yeah, I mean, what did he make? Couple chip shots, man. It's the NFL, man. Make your kicks, man. He ain't make no 50-something game winner or nothing like that. But good job to the kicker. You know what I'm saying? I can't be up here giving kudos to everybody. Shout out Mac, the Giants fan, one time. He said, what up? I missed the whole game yesterday, and that would be the one they put together a complete game. Yo, man, maybe you got to start missing some games, Mac. You know what I'm saying? Because the Giants definitely played a pretty complete game. The only issues I had was red zone. Clean up the red zone stuff, but great game by the Giants. Pat Barrios says, shout out Deontay Banks for stepping up too. Jerome challenged him, and he delivered. Absolutely did. Going up against one of the top 10 wide receivers in this league, and DK Metcalf too. And Nick Aldetti says, for us to have success this year, Burns and Kayvon have to consistently win. Need to be very good to great based on salary and draft position. That's what it is. That's the best way to explain it. 5 or 6 pressures in this game is what Elias was saying, or Elias. If that's the case, 6 is good. But I thought I saw a little bit less than that, but 6 is solid. And he says 1 sack, 5 hurries on the day. That's solid game, but you just want to see it consistent. And I just want to see a guy getting after the quarterback more. That's all. That's really all it is. And he did double down and say that those are PFF numbers as well. Yeah, we got big shout outs, man. Everybody feeling good today. DJ Davison getting some shout outs. BK Goodson 718 says, after watching Burrow interview, I think he has mentally checked out. Could give us a good opportunity against the Bengals. Yeah, the Bengals right now are a bad team, and I think that this is what you got to do. You got to stop them, obviously, defensively. You want to have a similar type of, game that we had against the Seahawks going up against the Bengals, where you limit them to low scoring, like keep them around that 20 mark. And then I think it's going to take Daniel Jones and this offense to be much more efficient in the red zone and just put up more points. Like, I think we're going to need probably like 27 to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. They've been putting up points a lot, although they have been losing games this year. Jay says, Authentic, what's your thoughts on Cordell Flott? I'm high on him, had a good PFF grade this game. He's coming around the corner, man. You know, Cordell Flott's playing some better football. We're seeing him turn into a better tackler, with opportunity in this secondary with some injuries. And you can tell that they're not trying to have Adoree Jackson out there on all the snaps. They're very balanced, I feel like, with the injury to Andrew Phillips. But I like Cordell Flott. I don't want to rely on these guys, though, to be cornerback 2 or even cornerback 1. The Giants got to address it and bring in a guy. Like, when you bring in a first-round talent at the cornerback position that really hits the ground running, kind of like a Deontay Banks did, kind of like, what's my guy, Quinyon Mitchell with the with the Philadelphia Eagles. These guys hit the ground running. They can be one-on-one guys right off the bat. And, that just makes your defense that much better when you can lock down a third of the field like that. And I agree with Big Pat. Flott is slowly improving. Guido says, I'll give Burns a pass for at least a full year since we were so tolerant of DJ for years. Yeah, man, I wasn't, but I'm willing to give Brian Burns the year for sure to see if he's earning this contract. I'll be critical throughout the year for sure. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We definitely got a lot more football left to play before we can judge, how Brian Burns is living up to that contract. It's just a lot of money. But nonetheless, man, really good stuff from the chat here. Let me tap back in and make sure we got that all in line here on the Super Chats. Definitely big salute to all of y'all, man. I think this was a really good win for the Giants. Again, I do agree with this statement on the screen that the Giants, the real heroes, was that Giants defense, because if the Giants defense doesn't go out there and do what they did in this game, we don't win it. The offense did have a good day as well. That doesn't take nothing away from them. But I just think that, holding this team to 13 points, man, this was virtually a shutout by the Giants defense. They played a hell of a game and got after the quarterback in a major way. And our secondary stepping up and playing, veteran-like ball. We lost a lot of pieces in that secondary, and it was good to see Deontay Banks and the rest of those guys going out there and really holding it down. So big shout out to them. All right, so before we get up out of here, I just kind of wanted to go over this schedule real quick, what we got coming up. Y'all know that I looked at the beginning of the season, weeks 3 through 7. I thought were extremely difficult weeks for us. Overvalued the Cleveland Browns, may have overvalued the Seattle Seahawks. Got the Cincinnati Bengals coming in at 1-4 next week. That's going to be a really interesting game. And then we got the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers And it's interesting. When you look at the rest of this schedule here, there's really not a team on the schedule that scares me at all. I think maybe the Baltimore Ravens, with the way that we saw them playing yesterday against the Cincinnati Bengals and Lamar Jackson playing at his highest level of football right now. But look at that schedule right there. Atlanta Falcons are playing some good ball. Tampa Bay Bucks are playing some good ball. The New Orleans Saints kind of came back down to earth. You saw the Colts take a loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had lost their first 4 games. They had lost 8 straight before that. Philadelphia Eagles have been banged up, and I think when they get a little bit more healthy, they'll become a little bit more of a threat to the New York Giants. But the schedule is not looking as difficult as we looked at it at the beginning of the year. So there are a bunch of winnable games here on the schedule, and I think the Giants are going to be able to compete as long as they can go out there and establish the run the way that they did yesterday against the Seattle Seahawks and be able to take care of the football, limit the turnovers, get after the quarterback. We got a shot here, y'all. So we're sitting at 2-3. Who knows? Maybe you get to that Washington rematch game there, and you can win maybe 2 out of these next 3 games. Giants will be looking pretty nice there, man. Sitting at what? 4-4? Yeah. That will be nice. And a big matchup against those Washington Commanders. That was going to be at MetLife Stadium. So this is going to be an interesting year. And we talked about trying to keep it interesting throughout the year, even if the Giants are going to be playing some bad football. But so far it's been a little bit of bad, a little bit of good, but more good. Definitely more good. I mean, outside of that Vikings game, the Giants have competed in every game so far. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think they got a shot here. I don't know what y'all thinking, but I definitely think the Giants got a shot here moving forward. But big salute to all of y'all, man, for pulling up, rocking out with me on this Monday afternoon, man. I know after a New York Giants victory, there are a lot of people in the building. We opened the doors today on our small corner of the internet to a lot of new faces, I'm sure. And if you are one of those new faces and you were digging the vibes here on the Giant Overreaction, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We go live 4 days a week. We do our preview shows on Thursday, our recap shows on Tuesday. We do our fantasy football show on Sunday morning at 11 a.m., the parlay. And we do this show here every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Giant Overreaction, which seems to be a big hit with the Giants fans, understandably so. Before we get up out of here, man, if you were in this stream from the beginning to the end, let me see some biceps in the chat. If you were a new face here today, and this was your first time here, let me see a bicep emoji in the chat. And if you've been rocking out with me for a long time over here on Authentic in the Beard, the best division in football, definitely throw a bicep in the chat here, man. Enjoy y'all Victory Monday. This was a great vibe today, and it's always good when the New York Giants win. It's always much better to come up here and report on this team when the Giants are winning. And as of late, it's been difficult to do that the past couple of seasons here, or season and a half, because the Giants just have not been winning games. But y'all know how I do over here. I'm going to always keep it real. I will always keep it authentic. I will always be critical of this team. There's always something that you can correct and you can improve on. And I'm just going to give y'all my opinions from my lens of, how I see the New York Giants and where we're going thus far. And it's been a bit of a surprise to the year so far. I think, we all came into the season thinking that the Giants had their best shot to get to 2-0 early on in the year with games against Minnesota and a game against the Washington Commanders. And it turns out that those are 2 of the better teams right now leading their divisions. So the NFL is a league built on parity, and things change from year to year to year, and teams that were in the playoffs are obviously not going to be there the following year. And there's so much change and turnover in the league. And I think that right now the Giants are sitting in probably the best spot that I thought they could maybe be in after 5 weeks of football. So, that's all we can ask for is just good Giants football. And I always tell people even bad Giants football is better than no Giants football. So cherish these seasons and enjoy them as they are here. I told the Beard, sitting at 4-1 for his Washington Commanders, don't be modest about it, man. Talk your shit and enjoy it, because there's going to come a time where football's not here and we can't even talk ball, or a time where your team is not as good as they once are. So live it and definitely enjoy it as you are here, man. Shout out to all of y'all again for tuning in, rocking out with me today, man. And everybody on the replay that's going to check this out later, make sure you put a bicep in the chat to represent that you are, rocking out with your boys, Authentic in the Beard. And again, the subscribers, the count has been growing. We just got over 5,000. Thanks to y'all. There were people that were rocking out with us from the beginning. I'm talking about when we would go live and there were just 2 people in the chat, 3 people in the chat, when we were just building this channel with pre-recorded videos and, doing 8-9 hour edits to try to get this content to y'all fast as we possibly could. And now we got people that tune in every week to this Giant Overreaction show. And we know it's going to be a crowded vibe here with a lot of people in the chat. So, I'm blessed to be able to have that with y'all here and to be able to build that with y'all and be able to talk ball with like-minded individuals and people that share different opinions as well and bring, some good to the table when they do that. Today's overreactions, some of them I had some disagreements with certain people on, but y'all were bringing some really good reasoning to that. And I love that. I'm here to learn just as much as I am here to try to share information and be a bridge that connects New York Giants football to the fan base. So big shout out to all of y'all, man. And I see Guido, who was a new face, saying it was a great show. Salute to you. I appreciate you pulling up and rocking out with us, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Monday, your Victory Monday afternoon. Make sure when you step out, you go to the grocery store, you put on some New York Giants apparel, and you represent for this team. They gonna need it, and we gonna need it. Big W for the Giants, 29-21 against the Seattle Seahawks, a team that even I thought we couldn't beat. So beautiful thing to see that on this Victory Monday. Y'all know how we end every stream over here on Authentic in the Beard. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack, and understand that a life without dreams is a life in black and white. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Victory Monday afternoon. I will catch y'all tomorrow, same channel, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to be doing the whole entire NFC East recap with my brother, The Beard. Y'all be good. Catch y'all on the flip side. Peace.